Welcome to 51 Stories. My name is Johan. Have you ever wondered if one of your former lovers doesn't exist anymore? That's a question I asked myself when I started writing this week's short story, and it deals with a bit of a sensitive subject. But once it was done, I thought that I had to share it. So here's this week's short story titled Forgiveness Helps. Have you ever wondered if anyone you slept with is dead? Nick Stevens was pondering that exact question as he hopped on the midnight train back home to Vermont. He ran down the list in his head as he got to his compartment, hung his coat on the wall, and stowed his bag and his suit folder into the overhead. He pulled the cot out from the wall and lay down with a deep sigh. And then, through a coincidence so unlikely that Nick genuinely couldn't tell if he was awake or dreaming, the very girl he'd just deemed most likely to no longer exist stepped right back into his life. Aubrey? The woman who'd just slid the door open stared wide-eyed at him as he sat up, adjusting his shirt. Aubrey looked at Nick, then the empty cot across from his. Without a word, she stepped back outside to check the compartment number against her ticket. "Shit," she said under her breath. She slid the door shut with a slam. The rattle of her suitcase disappeared down the aisle. Nick just sat there for a moment, staring at the door. He hadn't thought about Aubrey Wilson for a long time. Hadn't seen her for even longer, years at this point. And the moment she entered his mind, she'd appeared in real life. Had that really happened? He'd just lain back down when he heard the rattling suitcase returning down the hall. Holding his breath, he watched the handle move. Aubrey slid the door open again. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling. "The train is fully booked. I don't know what happened, but if I can just put my bag here, I'll find a seat and—" "No," Nick said, shooting up a bit quicker than he intended. "It's fine, really. I'll just—" He set about gathering his things. "I'll get out of here. You can have the compartment." Grabbing his coat off the hook, he turned to look at her. She had bangs now, her black hair framing her pale face in a way that made her eyes seem even larger than they already were. They stood there for a moment, taking each other in. "Hi, Nick," Aubrey said. "Hey, Bree." A train conductor suddenly appeared behind her. "Miss, I'm really sorry about this. I will double-check the bookings. Is there anything I can do in the meantime?" Nick watched Aubrey put one of her masks on before she turned around, the one that was all smiles and pleasantries. "No worries, really. We'll work it out. We know each other," she said. "Oh, okay." The woman in the uniform shot Nick a glance. The way she read the room made him blush. "Well, let me know if you need anything." The woman's keys jangled on her hip as she hurried off to the next cart. "Listen," Aubrey said as she turned back to Nick. "You don't have to do this. You were here first. I was just thinking about you," Nick said. She nodded her brows at him. "Really? Why?" Nick immediately regretted saying anything. "Oh, going back home, I was just thinking you still got your folks in Vermont, right?" She looked at him, her face once again soft and vulnerable. He'd never figured out if that was a mask, too. "You're going back for the holidays?" she said. "Something like that," Nick said, scratching his neck. "Look, I know this whole situation is bizarre, but Do you want to come in? I mean, I know it's not much, but he set his stuff down to fold his cot back into a sofa seat. There's plenty of space if you want to stay. I was actually just thinking about getting a pool table, maybe a chandelier for the vestibule. There was a twitch at the corner of her lips as she nodded approvingly. Have you considered a hot tub? I know a great hot tub guy. Nick laughed, reminded of their trip to Aspen, where he'd slipped like a cartoon character getting out of the jacuzzi. Then he realized it was the first time he'd even smiled in 2 weeks, and he stopped. Please, Aubrey, stay. I'd love to catch up. She looked up at him, thoughts raising behind her big eyes like flakes in a pair of snow globes. Okay, she said. It's strange how easily our personalities can morph back into familiar patterns, jigsaw pieces rearranging to fit someone we once knew. You're not strangers, just estranged. With some people, it's as though no time has passed at all. We just fit. With others, we can feel everything snap into place, revealing the glaring holes where there are now pieces missing. An hour into their conversation, Nick found himself staring at one of those negative spaces between Aubrey and him. They talked about work, family, the usual. Now, he decided to ask how she'd been. Like, really. Really well, actually, she said. It wasn't that he didn't believe her, it was just that he couldn't understand how it could be true. The entire time they'd been together, she'd been a disaster. It's me, Bree. You can tell me. For a moment, she just looked at him. Her face had hardened. I've been well, she said again. A bit taken aback by her tone, Nick sat back in his seat across from Aubrey's. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. You're not. I'm telling the truth. I've been really good. She ran her fingers through her hair, fixed her bangs to her forehead, then decided to mess them up again. When we were together, Nick, I wasn't in a very good place. He looked up to meet her gaze. I was messed up, and I don't know, I think I was hoping you'd fix me. I wanted to, Nick said. She suddenly drew a trembling breath. He shifted in his seat as her eyes teared up. I know you did, she said after a while. And I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that to you. You couldn't fix me, Nick. I had to fix myself. And Nick began, not sure how to phrase the question. Did you? She shrugged. What about you, Nick? You don't look too good. He scratched his stubbled chin, trying not to look offended. It's been a rough couple of weeks. Yeah, she said. I don't think I've ever seen you like this. This definitely took him aback, but he didn't know what to say. I mean, that's why I ran when I saw you. I didn't know how to. Nick, are you all right? He looked away, staring at his suit folder on the floor. I'm not going back for the holidays, he said. It's a funeral. Aubrey's breathing changed. He could feel her searching his wandering eyes. Whose? Your dad's? What? Nick said absent-mindedly, looking up. No, he's fine. It's for my fiancée. Aubrey pressed her lips together. Uh, she, Nick said, feeling himself go hollow, his voice sounding like a faint echo ringing out of his skull. It was a car accident. Her parents took her back to Vermont as soon as I'm going up there to. Nick flexed his fingers, holding back words that would rip the world apart. He wasn't ready for that. Not yet. As though they'd never been apart, Aubrey reached for his hand with both of hers. Nick watched her thin fingers gently kneading his palm as he focused on breathing. For the first time in 2 weeks, it wasn't the thought of Ella being gone that cut him up inside. It was the fact that little, messed up Aubrey Wilson was now comforting him. Tables, he croaked. Huh? Aubrey said. Oh, how the tables have turned, Nick said under his breath. What do you mean? Aubrey whispered. He pulled his hand free, slumping back against the backrest with a sardonic little laugh. He couldn't bring himself to look at her. He covered his face, talking through his hands. When the train rolled into the station, Nick said, the words escaping him against his will, I realized that if I just stepped in front of it, none of this would be happening. Then it couldn't take me home. I could have stopped it right there. He let his hands fall, dropping his own mask with them. He couldn't believe he'd just said that. To his surprise, Aubrey sat across from him with a crooked little smile on her lips. It wasn't gloating or mocking, nor sad or pitying. He didn't know what to make of it when she grabbed his hand again. Then he watched her guide his fingers up under the cuff of her blouse. An inch past the edge of the fabric, her smooth skin suddenly turned hard and knotted, the tip of his finger tracing a jagged little inscription up her wrist. The cuff tightened over his hand, and he ran his finger back down the scar tissue like a blind man reading Braille. When he looked back up at her, the smile had changed. Aubrey hadn't moved a muscle. Nick had just put a new puzzle piece down between them. The smile was one of recognition, knowing. I really spiraled after we broke up, Aubrey said. I'm sorry, I never... No, wait, she said, leaning towards him, still holding his hand. It was a good thing, Nick. I mean, it was really, really bad, like seriously bad. But it was good. He felt his face contort as a wave of emotion swelled across it, its crest crashing against his composure. How can any of this be good? He whispered, catching tears with the back of his free hand. Aubrey drew a deep breath, clutching his fingers, her thumbs digging into his palm. When we were together, I thought of a million ways to do it. Pills, jumping off the roof. You know that scarf I knitted for like a month? That thing was bulletproof, Nick chuckled tearfully. It needed to support my weight, she said with a sad little shrug. I didn't realize that you... It's not your fault, Nick. I was messed up. I knew you were hurting, but you never did anything when we... I didn't, because of you, Aubrey said. Every time I came close, I thought about you coming home to find me. The thought of you seeing me like that was the only thing more unbearable than living. Nick closed his eyes. So when I wasn't around anymore... No, it has nothing to do with you, Nick. Aubrey said. That's the whole thing. It was so wrong to put my life in your hands like that. My life is my life. Yours is yours. He couldn't hold it back. Warm streaks ran down his cheeks. He didn't dare look at her. I just miss her so much, he hissed through his teeth. I should have driven her there. I didn't feel like going out, and I let her. He sobbed, catching his breath, fighting to push it back down. I don't know how to do this. Aubrey's grip on his hand tightened. None of us do, Nick. And then Nick just let himself drown in the roiling sea as Aubrey held him fast. They sat like that for a while, and when he finally decided to follow Aubrey's hand towards the surface, he had no idea of how long it had been. It was dark outside the dirty train window, scattered lights of faraway towns blinking past dark woods and open fields. Aubrey had moved over to sit next to him, still holding his hand, staring out the window. How did you get past it? Nick whispered. Huh? How did you, get better? She thought about it for a long time before she answered. I'm not sure that I did, she said softly. But when I finally did it, when I saw all that blood, my perspective just changed. Nick nodded in the dark, not sure what to say. That old impulse of wanting to scold her for being so selfish as to even consider it was gone. I think, Aubrey said, pausing to find the right words, I think I realize what life is. What do you mean? I don't know, she said, looking away as another train flashed by, going the opposite direction. I think I just realize how precious it is. Holding his breath, Nick thought of Ella, her broken body being pulled from the wreck. Death is inevitable, Aubrey continued, unavoidable. Life isn't. Life is very much avoidable. To his surprise, she chuckled. Since I was a teenager, I woke up every day not sure I'd bear another one. But then I think about my parents, think about my sister, about you, and I'd push through. Then, when I finally went through with it, it was like death asked me, is this what you really want? What did you say? That I wasn't sure. She turned to look at him, smiling in the faint light. I'm still not sure, but life is scarce, Nick. Death gives us a chance at something else by staying away. It made me realize that the kindest thing I can do to everyone, including myself, is give life a chance. Death will be there. But right now, whenever I feel like ending it, I give life another day. It can really surprise you sometimes. They looked at each other. A tsunami of thoughts wanted to crash out of him, but the only thing that made it past his lips was, I'm sorry. For what? Aubrey said. Remember when I said I just thought about you earlier? It was something not very nice. You're not weak, Aubrey. You never were. She laughed at that. Loud, full-bodied laughter he'd never heard before. I forgive you for thinking otherwise, she said with a toothy grin. Thank you. But you have to promise me something, Nick. What? That you show yourself the same grace. Nick drew a deep breath, and for the first time since Ella's accident, it filled his entire lungs. Give life a chance, right? Aubrey tilted her head, considering it. Maybe more like give yourself a chance. He slumped back in the seat, leaning his head against the wall as the tension and the turmoil drew back like the tide leaving his limp body on the shore. He was exhausted. He woke up hours later as the train slowed down, making him lurch forward in his seat. He had a blanket over him. Aubrey's cot was empty, and her suitcase was gone. Dazed, Nick stumbled to his feet, gathering his things. He wanted to say goodbye, thank her, or something, but he never caught up with her, didn't see her anywhere at the station. As he stood at Ella's funeral later that same day, the frigid wind made him put his hand in the pocket of his coat. He found a note from Aubrey inside. It said, "Forgiveness helps." To this day, Nick Stevens carries that note in his pocket. He will love Ella till the day he dies. He will love Aubrey Wilson forever. Now this is the part where I tell you to do all the stuff, that YouTube wants you to do. And I don't know. I think I just want you to know that forgiveness helps. It really does. And I know you shouldn't just forgive for forgiveness' sake. Or maybe you should. But I know that we can be very stingy with forgiveness, especially when it comes to ourselves. And I think that that's when it's most important. So I don't know. I hope this story can be a note in your pocket for when you need it. And that's why I wanted to share it. It's not heist at the museum. but I still think it's an important story. And that is why I love this project. I mean, some weeks it's really, I really struggle to write something worthwhile. And then every now and again, I write something that really does something, that really does the thing that stories should do. And I think that this is one of those stories. And yeah, so I'm not telling you to share this for the algorithm. It's not that kind of story. I'm telling you to share this if you know that it could actually be of use to someone. Because I think that's very, very important. I'm recording this a lot later than I usually do because I really couldn't decide on whether I should or not. I was about to write something else. But now I've decided that this goes up. And I hope that was the right choice. Okay, that's it for this week's story. All hail the eternal Storyboros.